said several times that what the governor wants is unconstitutional. Can you explain exactly what you're talking about?
Yes. The process that the governor has proposed, we didn't really understand it quite at first, so we asked for a lot of amplification on what he would like to see. He's asked for actually something kind of new. Normally the House and the Senate both pass their bills, go to conference committee, and during that time the governor and agencies become involved, find out what can be signed or not signed. The conference committees close up. Bills go to the governor for either a veto or a signature. That's our process. That's the way it's always been. He's proposing something that is actually where we would complete our work. He would disengage and kind of stay hands-off until the conference committee reports have actually been completed. He would send them to me or to the legislature, both the House and the Senate, and then they would take them off the table in a new fashion. We really didn't understand quite what he meant. We asked for a lot of amplification, and glad you asked about the constitutionality, because I'm not a lawyer. I'm a fan of lawyers, but one of the few. One of the few. But Representative Wardlow has gone through exactly the process that he proposes and why that presents a lot of problems. That actually creates we have a House and a Senate and a governor. The governor's actions are negative in nature in terms of a veto or signature. This would create a new process that we believe is not constitutional, and Representative Wardlow could probably...
You've been the one saying it, and you're the majority leader, so show me
yes.
where it is. What should I look at?
I think if you look at the letter that was just handed to you, there's two sections, and it deals with the separation of the separation between the governor's purview and the legislature's purview. That's pretty clear, and I think that if you look within that, and this is not a partisan issue, because I think both Representative Zellers and I sued Governor Pawlenty in the last term for extending beyond into the legislative purview. So perhaps Representative Wardlow, you want to just go over the exact sections.
Thank you. The governor's proposal, as it's been explained and expounded upon, he wants to have final conference reports sent to him, finalized, presented to the governor, and then he wants to be able to send them back with his recommendations without vetoing the conference reports. But under Article 3, Section 23 of our state constitution, the governor's veto authority and role in the legislative process is laid out very clearly. And it's a narrow exception where the governor actually has legislative authority. So many people think that the veto power and the governor's process in terms of signing laws is part of the executive authority, but it's not. It's a narrow exception to the legislative authority where the governor has a little bit of legislative power for himself, but it needs to be narrowly construed in order that the governor and the executive branch doesn't usurp improperly authority belonging to the legislature in violation of Article 3 of the Constitution, which provides that the separation of powers between judicial, executive, and legislative must be maintained, and any provision in the Constitution that is an exception to that express division must be narrowly construed. So if you think about it, if both houses agree and pass conference report and present it to the governor, if 3 days pass, that becomes law automatically. The governor only has the ability to veto it and send it back with recommendations. He can't send it back without vetoing it, and he can't do anything to it that would cause it to go into law except for signing it, which would speed up the adoption, perhaps, and that's it.
But the governor said Tuesday, when asked about the 3-day deadline to act, he said, "I will act." So what gives you, do you have a letter from him that gives you the impression that he doesn't want you to act since Tuesday? He doesn't want to act, but he wants you to hold off?
Well, now, if he says he's going to act within 3 days, that's fine, but there's only a few things he can do. All he can do is veto and send back with recommendations, or sign, or do nothing. Those are his three choices. If he does anything else, he inserts himself into the core of the legislative process and becomes basically a super legislator.
But again, he said Tuesday he would do one of those three things. Do you have other
If he wants to do, if that's what he's going to do, that's new, and that would be fine.
Let me add one other point here. So, Rachel, just I guess, bigger picture. I will pull myself out of the legal weeds for a second here. You know, the governor has kind of an odd habit of meeting with us in the morning and then having a press conference in the afternoon where he describes some new ideas or new deadlines or new processes that he didn't touch base with us on in the morning. So we're going to keep meeting with him. We hope he'll feel comfortable describing these new processes or deadlines face-to-face. I think that can happen. But, I mean, you'll recall, I think the very first press conference that, a media availability that we had with the governor, we had a half an hour with him, and then he came in here and all of a sudden started talking about his desire for a bonding bill. So that was back in January, which he'd never shared with us prior to his announcement. So he's going to have to work with the legislature. Yes, part of being governor is having press conferences, but he's going to have to lead, and May is really going to be an important time for him to roll up his sleeves, have his commissioners come, have his staff come, and we will keep providing those kind of opportunities. But you know, some of these letters and these new deadlines, I don't think they're not going to help us close this budget up, and that's what Minnesotans want us to do.
Sorry, Senator, I understand those talking points, but do you believe that what the governor is asking is unconstitutional?
Rachel, those aren't talking points. That is how we've tried to conduct this session. We have new leadership. We have a new governor, and he's just getting used to his office. I can share with you, I think he and Majority Leader Koch and Speaker Zellers have a foundation that they can work off of. But again, kind of these new announcements and these surprise deadlines, they're not going to help us. He's the governor. We'll give him all the ability to say and do what he wants to do, but in the end, we're going to have to work together. They're going to work together. And I'm optimistic. We've got plenty of time. It's still April.
But on the constitutionality, do you think he is asking for something that is unconstitutional?
I don't have a legal opinion on that. I'm just trying to close up the budget.
So you won't finish your bills by May 6th as he's requested because you think somehow that's unconstitutional. I'm trying to get the sense of leadership.
Oh, we're going to continue to work the process through the conference committees, Rachel. That's what we've been saying all along, and we've been saying that to the governor all along. Here's what I do know. I do know that we are, and I agree with the governor, that we are in fiscal crisis. I do know that we have a deadline of May 23rd to finish this budget. I do know that the governor has presented a budget with $2.7 billion in tax increases that spends and increases spending in the state 22%. I do know that spending in this state, spending in government, has gone too far. I know that we need to rein in spending. I know that we need to do significant reforms. All of that is included in the budget we presented, a budget that lives with the money that's in the checkbook. And that's what we came here to do. That's what I came here to do. And what I continue, and all my conversations with the governor are revolving around that. My conversations with the House revolve around that. Our caucus conversations largely revolve around that. That's the most important thing. It's job 1, 2, and 3 at this point. And we intend to get that job done because that's what the people of Minnesota expect, and that's what the people of Minnesota deserve. And we can get into discussions about process. We can put up deadlines for ourselves. The deadline is May 23rd. The budget is the job.
Will any conference reports be sent to the governor by next Friday?
Just let me, if I could, just to finish with Rachel's question, if I could. He has within his proposal 2 problems. Number 1, he supposes a $2 billion plus tax increase that doesn't have any votes in the House or the Senate. That is problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that the way that he is proposing this to do this is new and we believe will lead to failure. We want to propose that we would open conference committee reports and move through the process with an engaged governor in that process, at the completion of which he can sign or veto bills. That's constitutional. That's the way it's always been done. But to somehow propose a new mechanism which he's proposed, where we would somehow take bills off the table, is new, and that it will not lead to success. So if he is saying that he's moved off that and he's moved forward in a traditional way, I think that that's a step forward and that that's a good thing. We can pass bills next week and the week after that within that framework. That's a good thing. So the framework and the time work, the two issues that we would have, the primary issue is that I believe he's called it wading into the swamp with alligators and crocodiles. That's the process. It's the legislature. We're not alligators and crocodiles. We're the legislature. And this is how we do it, and it's part of the process, and it's part of our job.